Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a long time since I last made a video, so it's been quite a prolonged break. I think about 6 weeks actually, but yeah, just a lot's been happening lately, including a recent trip I made to my country of origin. So some of you who follow me on social media will know I traveled there for a couple of weeks and visited family, which was great. So now I'm finally back home and thought I would get back into the channel just because it's been a while. Normally I don't leave it so long, so here we are. And I do have a lot of ideas for videos. There's like a collection update backlog worth a few videos that I already need to attend to, as well as some contest entries. So today, just because it's been a long time, I thought I'd go back to something traditional and just continue with my existing CD collection. So I've got 4 albums to talk about today, and these 4 albums will finish artists beginning with K. So you'll remember quite recently I just finished off the KISS discography, and I know some of you will be happy about that because I know not all metal fans like KISS, but yeah, these are the remaining artists within the letter K, and we'll knock those over today, and then I've got a few more videos coming up. So without further ado, we will get into it. So last 4 artists beginning with the letter K, and today we're starting off with KORPIKLAANI with Ukon Waka. I think that's how you say it. Yeah, so you'll know I've spoken about this band quite recently on my channel actually. So if you're not familiar, KORPIKLAANI are a Finnish folk metal band. And what's interesting about them is they actually started out as a folk band, purely as that, but then they actually switched to cross it over to metal music, maybe due to the fact that Finland is a big metal country, or metal music's quite popular over there. But for whatever reason, the result is fantastic. So I was talking about their album Noita in a recent vinyl video. This one, Ukon Waka, I think it came out earlier. But yeah, KORPIKLAANI, it may not be everyone's cup of tea because some people may think it sounds corny because it's folk metal, but there's a lot of traditional instruments like violins and accordions and willow-tipped flute, you know, things like that. So it's not for everybody, but I have to say this, even if you don't like it initially, it may grow on you. And as I famously said before, I heard and saw this band simultaneously for the first time at Grass Pop 2015, and it was actually my favorite band at the festival. So there you go. But yeah, so that's KORPIKLAANI's sound, just energetic, upbeat folk metal. It sort of sounds like the kind of music you could waltz or dance to, and that often happens at concerts. And yeah, so it's very metallic and it's very heavy. The vocals are unique, sounding very Finnish because all the lyrics are sung in Finnish as well. But yeah, they do have something unique, and I really like it anyway. So this album is no exception. I actually think I like this one better than Noita, the one I spoke about before, just because there's just more songs I like. But essentially you have 11 tracks on this album, one of which is a hidden cover track. And most of them, the majority of them, are my favorite. So as I said, you should know what to expect by this band. Like, just go and listen to any album. But it's very upbeat, very energetic, riffy, with all those other instruments in it. But like, some of my favorite tracks on this album would be track 4, which I think, please forgive my Finnish pronunciation or lack thereof. Track 4 is called Lonkalut, I think, well, and I don't even know what that means. Also track 5 is Tequila. Like, they often have songs singing about alcohol, like they have a beer song and a vodka song, but this one, Tequila, there's some lyrics in Spanish, and again, it may sound a little corny, but trust me, it's very catchy. I really like that. Now, coming into some of my favorite tracks, I really like the title track, Udon Waka, because that's a very slow track, and it's also very haunting and folky, and it has these kind of dirgy, folkish vocals, which I think are provided by a guest actually. So some traditional Sami singer, like the northern people of Finland, something like that. But Ukon Waka is a very sort of somber, atmospheric track, so I really like that. And without a doubt, hands down, my absolute favorite track on the album is track 8, which is entitled Koivu ja Tati. I can't remember what that means, but I know Tati means star in Finnish. But this is just a brilliant track. Like, it's got a very unsettling, haunting melody, like sort of this foreboding tone to it. And then it's followed by this really epic, folky chorus, which features violins and everything. And as I've said before, I think that song just reminds me of dancing around a maypole in the forest. Like, it really evokes that kind of atmosphere. So, absolutely brilliant track, Koivu ja Tati. I also really like the instrumental track, track 9, which is entitled Varen Polka. So yeah, they even refer to sort of polka music on their albums. So that's a super catchy, upbeat instrumental. Just the syncopations they use in that song, you can't help but air drum or tap along to that. Absolutely brilliant. And just these really catchy riffs which stick in your head. And then the album closes with a hidden cover track of Iron Fist by Motorhead. And that may sound strange or interesting, you know, like a folk metal band covering Motorhead, but it actually works and it's really catchy. So yeah, absolutely brilliant album. So I think I've named the majority of tracks there, except not to say the other ones are bad. The whole album is really good, but it's just like the majority of the songs stand out to me. So yeah, probably my absolute 3 favorite tracks on the album, if I had to limit it, would be the title track, Udon Waka, Koivu Ya Tati, my absolute favorite song, and Varin Polka, but an absolutely great album. So just show you the cover there, appropriately epic and Finnish looking. And yep, all of the lyrics and pictures of the band members here, all lyrics are in Finnish, so they're not of much use to me, except they do translate some tracks here, but not all. And yeah, there's a picture of the band, 6-piece band, because they have so many interesting instruments, which I've referred to before. Yep, so I really love the artwork. It is a whole cohesive package with this particular album. So really good stuff. If you're open-minded enough to like folk metal, yeah, I would recommend this. I know some people said it's corny, like I said, but yeah, give it a chance and you might find you really like it. So that's KORPIKLAANI with Udon Waka. All right. So coming up next, we're going to some death metal now, this time to the Czech Republic, or Czechia as it's now called. This is KRABATHOR with Orthodox. So this is an album that I've owned for a very long time, actually. I think since the early 2000s or something. And yeah, like I said, what's unique about it is that it's a Czech death metal band. I mean, there are a lot of Czech death metal bands these days, and in the underground and in general. But at that time, particularly in the 90s, this band was sort of on their own. You know, most famous bands popularly came from like the US or Sweden, not all obviously, but the Czech Republic, or was it the Czech Republic at that point? Yes, yeah, was not really known for death metal, but this band has been waving the flag, you know, carrying the torch very proudly like over the decades. I think since this, I read today this band started out in '84 actually, but their first full length came out in '91, I believe. Now, how I discovered this band, I had a tape trader friend, Sylvia from Italy in the late 90s, and she copied an album for me called Cool Mortification, and that was a really good one. I think that was a 1993 album, and I really liked that. And I just saw this one in a secondhand CD shop a few years later and picked it up. So this is Orthodox. Interesting cover here. So if you're not familiar with KRABATHOR, basically the way I could describe it is that it's extremely pummeling heavy death metal with razor sharp riffs, precise drumming, and low guttural vocals. So certainly nothing groundbreaking or revolutionary, but if you just like that solid, heavy, precise, old school sound, you'll really like KRABATHOR, I think. And what I also like about it is the fact that there's very intricate audible bass playing, so you can actually hear the bass in the production, which adds to the heaviness. And despite the speed and extremity of this band, the fast songs are still really catchy, like the riffs. And although it's frequently fast and brutal, it's also underpinned with some groove, featuring a lot of mid-paced riffs and songs. So there's a lot of diversity with tempo and some really good guitar solos too. So yeah, it's not reinventing the wheel, but if you just like that solid, old school, brutal, heavy, catchy death metal, you'll like this album. Now again, this album has no bad tracks. There are 9 tracks and I like them all, but my favorites, I've actually got 5 out of the 9. So that says a lot once again that this album is really good. Like the opening track, the title track, Orthodox, that's straight into it, pummeling death metal, just like as a battle cry really, to give you an idea of what this band and this album's about. So just pummeling heavy death metal with some blast beats, that's Orthodox, really good. Another track, probably my 2 favorite tracks on the album actually, are tracks 3 and 4. So track 3 is entitled Shit Comes Brown, and that's an anti-Nazi song actually, so against Nazis, you know, people with that extreme, you know, mentality and everything. So the song is about that, like about ignorance and everything. So it's like it's a very aggressive song. And just read you some of the lyrics in that because they're quite funny. So, you stupid little Nazi who never used to think why you love to wear the shirt in the color of your own shit. And then later on, why do you sit on the toilet? You should sit upside down because your brain is in your ass and your shit's in your head. Try to open your mouth as much as you can. Put your finger into neck and vomit out your brain. So yes, that song, yeah, it's a very aggressive song, which is really cool. So that's Shit Comes Brown, just a short song. And then incidentally, going from an anti-fascist, anti-Nazi song, we go into track 4, which is an anti-communist song. This one's entitled Two Red Ones. So some people might think, why are they writing an anti-communist song? Well, you'll have to remember that the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia, as it was then at the time, was part of the Soviet Union or the USSR, as were most Central and Eastern European countries, if not all. And I actually read that Czechoslovakia was one of the most heavily controlled and monitored of the Soviet states. So to be a Czech person living under that, it was obviously a very oppressive regime, and it must have been horrific. So no wonder they wrote this song. But just that song, Two Red Ones, it's got this really heavy, groovy riff like that. It's just so good, and like the vocal patterns match it. It's really heavy, really catchy. I just absolutely love it. And there's also some funny lyrics in this one too. So Two Red Ones. So my favorite one being, communist community of red Hitlers, get out of my way. Your chance is lost, you are less than dust, you're living corpses. Now, that may not sound very inspiring when I just read it, but when you hear it delivered with the vocal patterns and the music, it's absolutely kick-ass. And I of course like the pre-chorus of that, which is, bastards, I see you in my dreams, hanged on trees. So definitely not holding back with this song, but like I said, if you were a Czech person living under the USSR, it wouldn't have been a very fun time. Yeah, so they're probably my two favorite tracks, Shit Comes Brown and Two Red Ones. But I also really like track 6, which is entitled Tales of Your History. That has a very catchy main riff, catchy vocal patterns, and also a slow section, and some of those like Cannibal Corpse-y screeches, the woo, like with the guitar. So yes, sort of a nod to Cannibal Corpse there on Tales of Your History, but I really like that song. And another really highlight track on this album is About Death, which is the closing track, track 9. That features a lot of keyboard, so it sounds very epic, but the riffs are so memorable, and just the way the chorus is delivered with the vocals, it's very anthemic. So yeah, really like this album. And as I said, like the other tracks which I haven't mentioned, they're all good. I'm just mentioning my personal favorites. So just showing you the cover here, which is very interesting. Got this like, is it like African bandit warrior or something with an AK and the bone. That's pretty cool. And members of the band, so 3-piece on the back. And it's interesting, I think it's 2 of the members do lead vocals, so they take turns. So we have all of the lyrics here. Yep, some old flyers and pictures of the band performing live. More lyrics. Yep, and there's the band. So yes, who is it? Bruno on lead vocals and bass, Christopher lead vocals and guitars, and Skull on drums. So I think the lineup has changed, but I think the main member of the band is Christopher. He's the one who stayed through the band throughout the years. Yep, so like I said, nothing incredibly groundbreaking, but if you just like solid, heavy, catchy, brutal death metal, yes, and brutal death metal can be catchy, remember that, definitely check out KRABATHOR and check out Orthodox. All right. So up next we have another album by the same band. This is the only other one I know by the band. You might have seen me post this on Instagram the other day. But this is KRABATHOR with the rather comically titled Unfortunately Dead. Like, I mean, of course, death is unfortunate, but yeah, just like an awkward sounding title. But don't be thrown off by that, because this is a really good album. Now, what I'll say about this is that for ages I never really gave this a chance. Like, I listened to it a few times, and it just didn't grab me much. Like, I got this back in the early 2000s. Like, I think it was at a Bloodlust concert in Sydney, like 2003 or 4, I think, when I bought this. And like, I already was familiar with Orthodox, but I remember on this album, the vocals were a lot raspier, like not as low and guttural, but more like, and like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's like a different death metal style, but I thought the band had sort of lost its identity a bit. But then upon closer listening, like listening to this album really carefully, I realized that the vocals weren't all that different to the previous albums. And in actual fact, this album is musically continuing in the same direction. Like, it's much later on, but it's still very choppy, catchy death metal with memorable riffs and groovy rhythms. That's how I'll describe it. And yeah, like I said, the vocals on some of the songs, maybe one of the singers, they sound a little raspier and less guttural than on Orthodox. And sometimes they remind me a bit of Repulsion, like that vocal style, although the music's quite different. But a lot of the riffs on this particular album, if upon close inspection and close listening, you'll notice that a lot of the riffs are very catchy, and they're so catchy and memorable that they're actually easy to hum along to, and I do. And I mentioned this on Instagram too, but some of the songs are almost like a riff salad because they combine so many different riffs and sections in the song. But they just flow together so well, so they're perfectly executed. There's also a good bass tone once again to emphasize the heaviness, and despite the frequent time changes, the songs always flow well. The guitar solos are excellent, so I really like this. So I've done a complete turnaround with this album. I think previously I just never listened to it enough, but as I always do before I make these videos, I re-listen to all of the albums, and upon closer inspection, with more effort, I realized this album is really good. So with my renewed interest in this album, I'll just go through some of my favorite tracks, which is again the majority of them. Like the first track, They Are Unfortunately Dead, that has some very memorable riffs, very catchy chorus, really good stuff. Track 2, The Eagles You Can Have. Yeah, so you'll have to remember this band is Czech, so sometimes there's a very sort of awkward turn of phrase with their lyrics and song titles, but then again, I don't think I could write a song in Czech, so I'm not mocking them. Yeah, so The Eagles You Can Have, that's really good. That has a really good driving groove and main riff, and also some interesting twists and turns with other riffs, so again, riff salad. Track 3, Mirror of Your Steps, that's a very thrashy song with chugging riffs and an epic emotive solo, so the guitar soloing is really good on this album. I also really like track 4, Different Fate, because it kicks off with a groovy bass solo followed by a catchy chugging riff. So yeah, KRABATHOR is all about the chugging riffs, definitely. If you like those just chugging, pile driving, heavy riffs, KRABATHOR is for you. I also really like track 6, To Be Unknown. That's got like this old school, slow, powerful, heavy main riff, you know, like with a lot of open power chords, like that classic old school death metal sound, which is really good. Track 7, entitled Living on the Threat of One Finger, that features a really good chugging riff breakdown. So again, this band delivers the riffs always. And continuing in the KRABATHOR tradition, the album closes with track 9, entitled Death Through the Centuries. So this has some incredibly catchy, slow, bulldozing and heavy riffs with keyboards and classical instrumentation in the background to lift the atmosphere, just like About Death, the final track on this album. So it seems like KRABATHOR always saved the most grand and atmospheric track to close the album, which is a good idea because they're usually very memorable songs. Yeah, so I really like the use of keyboards and classical instruments in the last song. And there's also some, there's an excellent harmonized guitar solo, and it's got a really good, it's just a really good song in general, despite the unintentionally funny spoken word section at the beginning of the song. But yeah, ultimately it's about the music, and track 9 is great. Yeah, so some of my favorite tracks off this would be They Are Unfortunately Dead, The Eagles You Can Have, Mirror of Your Steps, Different Fate, To Be Unknown, Living on the Threat of One Finger, and Death Through the Centuries. So again, that's the majority of the songs, but no bad tracks once again. So here's the cover. I think that's supposed to be Jesus Christ, I'm guessing, from that posture. And it's interesting, although this is a death metal band, they're going for a kind of Viking image on this album. It reminds me of Enslaved's Eld or Blodhem albums. So it's still the same members on this. But yeah, you see that Viking theme. Yep, so it's the same members, so Bruno, Christopher, and Skull on drums. Yeah, so sometimes you can do a turnaround with music. Like I never hated this album, but I just didn't get into it much. But then when I gave it a closer listen, I actually found it really good. So a lot of great riffs. That's KRABATHOR with Unfortunately Dead. Fantastic Czech death metal band. All right, and one more album to finish off today, guys. And thankfully this video hasn't been going on for too long by my standards. Okay. This band needs no introduction to anyone, I'm sure. This is KREATOR with Phantom Antichrist. And believe it or not, this is the only KREATOR album I own. So wait, hear me out. I've never had anything against KREATOR, but I think people may have heard me say on this channel before that I'm not the world's biggest fan of German thrash metal, or that's what I thought anyway. Like even thrash metal in general, I do like it, but there are other subgenres I like more, as you know, but that's not to say that I dislike it. But I always found the, for some reason, to my ears when I was younger, I found the German thrash bands just a bit dry and boring sounding, or so I thought. Having said that though, like when Mr. Boulder sent me a thrash metal CD, one band that I really got into was Tankard, and I think they're probably my favorite German thrash metal band. Destruction I never got into, but maybe I should give them another chance. Sodom, I know they inspired a lot of black metal, so I should really listen to more Sodom. And KREATOR is one of those bands, yeah, I've listened to bits and pieces. And yeah, like I said, I used to find this band quite dry and boring, but there are some songs I really like by this band, especially People of the Lie. I think that's from Coma of Souls. That's my favorite Kreator song of all time, just so catchy. I also really like, you know, Pleasure to Kill, some of the older songs. Even though, like, obviously a band like that, they can't just continue rehashing that again and again. But I also gained a lot of respect for this band after I saw the documentary Alternessent Thrash, which you can see on YouTube. That documents the life of Kreator in the 80s, along with other bands, like maybe some non-metal bands in their community in the German town of Essen in West Germany, as it was then known in the 80s. But it was really interesting. I gained a lot of respect for this band because I realized they came from a very tough, difficult background, you know, living in that town of Essen, which was a mining town, and basically the economy turned to shit there in the 80s because a lot of the mines closed down. So they either worked really hard in the mines, which was a very tough job, like they're describing, you shovel coal and you're black as shit. But in addition to that, the mines then closed down. So like it was a very sort of disenfranchised place to grow up, and I think that had an impact on their music. So with Kreator, it wasn't just about image, they were living that difficult life. But anyway, I'm rambling on, but like I'm just trying to inform you how I got into Kreator. So I think I need to listen to more Kreator albums, but let's get to this album. This album reinstated my faith in this band. Like I kind of liked them, but then this album was the one that really blew me away. Like this is quite a recent one, I think early 2010s, like 2012, something like that. But yes, so Kreator is sort of classic German raw thrash, except this album, I would say, is a lot more melodic and atmospheric than their early 80s material, and it's also much better produced and featuring a lot of somber and reflective moments. So it's not just fast manic thrash the whole time, but that makes it more interesting in my opinion. What I really love about this album is that it's loaded with catchy riffs, hooks, rhythms, and vocal patterns, and while definitely still retaining the thrash sound and raspy vocals, this album is also possibly taking influence from modern melodic death metal, in my opinion, because a lot of these melodies which carry the riffs, they're just really hypnotic and standoutish, and they make the songs even more memorable. And especially with the choruses, they're really anthemic, which makes them memorable as well. So, and as always, there's excellent guitar solos, melodies, and harmonies. So I have nothing to criticize about this album, absolutely nothing at all. And believe it or not, it's interesting, isn't it, that I say that Kreator, they're not one of my favorite bands at all, but I have to say, with this particular album, every single track, no joke, is a standout track. So it's very rare that one can say that about an album, like every single one, and especially about a band that I'm apparently not all that into, but this album really blew me away, and when I listened to it a couple of times recently, I still loved it. It's just like, every song is so hooky and anthemic, you can't not remember the chorus and, you know, certain parts of the song. So they're really good. So the opening track, Mars Mantra, that's like a somber, foreboding intro, which is really good, like appropriately haunting. Then we go into track 2, Phantom Antichrist. That's so incredibly catchy in all respects, and if you've heard the song, you'll know what I mean. I also like track 3, Death to the World. Catchy as fuck, you know that chorus, Death to the World, dun, dun, dun. Sorry, I should refrain from singing, but yeah, whenever I read the title, it makes me want to sing the song, if that makes sense. But incredibly riffy, catchy, melodic, brilliant. Then we also have, From Flood into Fire. That's very anthemic and also features a very slow and somber section with clean vocal melodies. So this shows Kreator going into clean vocal territory, but not in a cheesy way. That's done by Mille Petroza. So everyone, it's Mille, not Millie, trust me. Okay, yeah, but the clean vocals are actually very good. Then I also really like track 5, Civilization's Collapse, which is incredibly catchy, melodic, and anthemic with the chorus. So catchy, melodic, anthemic, they are key words for this album that will be repeated several times, I'm sure. United in Hate, track 6. Again, that's interesting because it's got an acoustic guitar intro and once again an anthemic chorus with a very melodic hook and excellent drumming. Then we have track 7, The Few, the Proud, and the Broken, which has some really hypnotic, melodic, flowing sections, as well as solid riffs throughout, and awesome time changes with the guitar solo there. And just, the guitar work is absolutely flawless on this album. Sensational. And then we go to track 8, entitled Your Heaven, My Hell. That features some somber melodic sections, as well as some melodic, dirgy, clean vocals, which are very depressive, but so atmospheric. Like, especially when he says Your Heaven, My Hell, there's that kind of like Germanic, dark melody behind it, which I really like. And yeah, once again, very anthemic chorus, very catchy, and the main riff is extremely catchy in Your Heaven, My Hell. Then we've got track 9, Victory Will Come. That's extremely melodic, and it has a very catchy chorus once again. Excellent riffage and guitar solos. And I know riffage is not a real word, but I just love the sound of it, so I'm gonna say it. And then we go to track 10, entitled Until Our Paths Cross Again. Appropriately melodic and anthemic to round off the album. Especially that melodic main lick in it, as well as excellent riffs and an anthemic chorus. So you can see I'm repeating the same adjectives over and over again, but that's precisely why each and every track on this album is a standout track. So there's the cover there, Creator, Phantom Antichrist. Incidentally, I saw the band on this tour when they were playing in Thailand, but you're gonna think I'm crazy. I saw the first few songs, then I ended up drinking beers with people out the front. Not because I was bored, we were just having socially a good time, so I kind of wasted half that concert, but they're really good live, and I'm glad I got to see them on this tour, some of it. So there's the back there. So yeah, cool artwork. All of the lyrics included here, but it's interesting because the way Miller sings, you can still make out a lot of the lyrics, even though like they're that kind of screeching, raspy style, which could almost be like melodic death metal, that kind. So maybe that's another way in which it has a lot in common with melodic death metal. But yeah, his vocals are clear. Picture of the band there. Yeah, just an absolutely great album. So this is one of those albums, I would say, in my collection, it's kind of like a hidden gem. Like, I don't play it that much, but whenever I do, I really enjoy it. The other reason why this album has special meaning to me is it was the first CD I bought when I moved overseas, you know, like 13 years ago or something. I had my music collection back in my home country at the time, but I remember seeing this in the shop, and I was sort of nostalgic about buying CDs, and I still wanted to do so. So I kind of got this as a blind buy. Oh no, maybe I read some reviews, but turned out to really like it. So this is probably going to be considered blasphemy, but I actually like this more than the old 80s Kreator stuff. But as I said, because I've listened to a few songs which I really like, for example, People of the Lie and Pleasure to Kill, I think, and because of my renewed respect for this band, I think I have to go back and listen to all of the albums properly. But let me know, guys, what are your favorite Kreator albums and which do you recommend? But all I'll say is this: if you're an old school fan and you haven't checked this out, definitely give it a chance because it's great stuff. Extremely catchy. So that's Kreator with Phantom Antichrist. Okay guys, that's it. So I've covered 4 CDs in under half an hour. That's probably a bit long for most people's standards, but I just feel like I have a lot to say. Remember, I haven't been here for 6 weeks, so it's good to open my mouth again. But yes, like I said, I have a lot of ideas for videos coming up. Like, I've got about 3 or 4 collection updates of recent batches of music I've purchased, and I've also got some contest entries coming up. So I just wanted to get the ball rolling today with a kind of more traditional video, but the next one will be a contest entry. So I look forward to doing that, and hopefully that will be in the next few days, because with the next few videos, I plan to pump out a few pretty quickly if possible. So I hope you stay tuned for that. So thanks for your support of the channel. If you're still here, thanks for continuing to watch, and I'll be back soon. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Cheers.